Hello. Gonna wait for a minute or so to see if we get anybody else on here. I see it says I have one person, but I'm new to this still. I've only done one live, so I'm not sure if that one person is me or possibly someone else. I'm going to ask everybody if they want to just type in the comments where you're from, where you're watching from. I'm Dana from Mimi's Little City Homestead, and I'm having a Friday night live just to have people stop by and chat, talk about what we're doing for midsummer canning, what kind of things are coming up, and anything that you might like to see. Also, I wanted to talk a little bit about the food mill that I have versus a food mill. This is kind of blurry. I don't know why that is. Hmm. Talk about the food mill that I have. And I found one actually that's really affordable, and I watched a review on it, and it looks like it's something that if you're not going to use it a lot would be affordable and easy to use and would last pretty good. And then I saw some that were like close to $300 or $375. They were all stainless steel. They came with more than one of the screens that the pulp goes through, and it had a motor on it, which was nice. You didn't have to crank it. I don't do that much canning where I use that other than tomatoes. I don't use a lot of the screens and the food mills. I generally just use a sieve, but I don't like to use cheesecloth or hang bags, jelly bags, or anything like that. So I do like mine. Mine's a hand crank, and I've had it, like I've said before, about 25 years. Before that, I had another one. And then before that, my mother in law had originally loaned it to me. And that's how I knew that that was something that I wanted because it makes everything so much easier. You don't chop everything, you don't seed anything, um, you don't have to steam them or dunk them in hot water, then give them an ice bath and then take all the peels off. You don't do any of that because the food mill does it for you, and all the seeds and the skins and all the parts that you don't want to use for canning go out the end, and all your pulp and juice go down into your bowl. So it works really nicely for if you do a lot of tomatoes, do a lot of juices, a lot of sauces. Um, Also works really good for berries. I'm getting ready to make a blackberry jelly, and I know that some people make blackberry jam out of that, but I don't know how they do it because I can't take the seeds. I don't even like raspberry seeds, so I like to run that through the food mill. But this one is easy to take apart and clean. And I found one on Amazon when I was looking around because I wanted to talk about these. Now, the one I got right now, they have one called a Norpro 1951. Um, and that one is only $62. And it's just like the one I have. And way back when I bought mine, it was over 100. I think because they were still relatively new, so they were going for a little bit more. But this is the same exact thing. Mine's part metal, and parts of it are plastic. So the main part of it and the screen, everything like that is metal, and then the spiral that goes in the middle, or the auger, and the hopper on the top, and the little there's a little shelf like thing that your juice and your pulp go on. Once you turn the crank, everything goes into that and slides down into your bowl. That's plastic, but the rest of it's all metal. So, and it's lasted me a long time through lots and lots and lots of uses. I've never had anything go wrong with it. And it suction cups down onto your countertop. So it's not even the kind that you have to use a bracket, to screw to your table or your counter edge, because I don't like to leave, I don't want to use it on a wooden table. I wouldn't want to leave marks on it or even try to use it on the countertop. So But that one I really like. And I thought about getting a newer one that is like mine in a lot of ways with some plastic parts, but then also has a little like half horsepower motor on it. And that one was called, let's see, I wrote these down so I would remember. Um, that one, oh, yep, Weston Deluxe Electric Tomato Strainer or Food Mill. Has a 4-quart hopper on it, and it's $108. Regular $140. Right now, it's so many percent off on Amazon today, as of today. May not be tomorrow or later tonight, I don't know, but as of today, it's 102. And I almost bought it because it has the electric motor on it, and all you have to do is drop your food in. You don't have to crank it and set it up with as many parts. But then I thought, mine doesn't have that many parts, and I don't want, I don't have a problem cranking it. It's nothing big. It goes through there really quick. So I decided, nah, I think I'll wait, maybe see about one later if something happens to mine. But I really liked that one. But the one I'm talking about that looked like it was affordable is called a Cucina, Cucina. I know that's kitchen. Cucina Pro, probably not saying it right, but those are plastic. All of it's plastic. The body of it, the parts that you all hook together, everything is plastic except for the cone with the holes in it that your food goes through, the juice and the pulp part. That's metal, but everything else on it is plastic. And it had a square hopper on the top, and it even came with a little square plastic dish for you to catch the good juice in. And that one is only $34.99. And I watched a review on it, and it looked like it worked really good. I mean, it worked just like mine does. The only thing the lady said was part of the main stand of it that holds all the parts had a crack in it, so she has to hold on to it while she's cranking it. Otherwise, it still works. But she's also had it for quite a while, she said. And then she ended up buying one of the ones I was considering, which was the Norpro, or no, I'm sorry, the one I was considering was the Weston Deluxe Electric Tomato Strainer. That was 108. So maybe if something happens to mine because it is older, but it still works really good. The stainless steel, it was all stainless steel, even the parts that hook together to hold the cone or the strainer part, everything was. And it reminded me of an all-American canner. It's like it was metal on metal everywhere. And you had to do all these special things to it to get it started. You had to run like bread with olive oil in it through it, because it had to, the first time you run it, it was actually putting out little metal shavings. So you had to do that first to get it broke in, throw all that away, wash it, re-oil parts on it. And it was heavy. I could tell the guy was doing it. It looked really heavy. And I thought, I don't want to mess with something that heavy for just, maybe I'm going to do blackberry jam and I'm not going to have a lot of blackberries, but I want to get the seeds out, and I don't want to spend a lot of time setting it up or spend a lot of time hauling around heavy equipment, because I'm trying to go to lighter equipment as I can more. So it looked like it was a really, really nice one, but I didn't want to spend $375 on something that was going to be more work to put together and use than the one I have. So I marked that off my list. I'd rather invest that money and then some more with it and get an all-American canner than get something like that. But I'm telling you, at tomato time, it's really a super time saver. And also when I'm doing berries, because you can do even strawberries. When you put those through there, you don't have to take the tops off. You don't have to remove leaves from the things off of the fruit. You just check it for the fruit that's not good that you would normally cut out, and then just throw it in your hopper and stuff it down in there with the stuffer, and turn the crank, and it all comes out, and it's really quick. And even the strawberry seeds do not go through that food strainer. So you can make anything you wanted to without strawberry seeds. It's pretty cool. So the other thing I saw on there that I also thought about was Cirillo Houseware, it was called. And it's for a KitchenAid mixer. And if you have a KitchenAid mixer, if you've seen them where people put the attachments at the top, they have that, the base of your mixer where you turn your power on and turn on your mixer. On the end of that, there's a little round metal thing, and you flip it up, and then you can put attachments on it. Like I have a pasta maker for mine and a meat grinder. There's just a bunch of stuff you can get and put on it. I also have a shredder, a grater, but they also make something that goes on it, and it's not KitchenAid brand, but they showed it on a KitchenAid mixer, and that was only $59. And I know from buying the attachments for my KitchenAid, they're kind of expensive, every one of them, unless you get them on sale, which is when I get mine. I wait for them to go on sale. They're pretty expensive, and I didn't think $59 was bad if that was something that sounded better, where you don't have to get out a whole entire unit. You just hook it to your KitchenAid. So that was $59. That was called Cirillo Houseware. So if you do any searching on Amazon, if you're interested in a food mill, it saves a lot of time because, the old Foley mills where you have the handle and the round part of the mill, and you have to turn that handle, and it goes around a million times before it gets all the food picked up and pushed through. You have to keep going with it. It wears your arm out. I'd rather stand and do this than do this because it's a lot easier. You can do bigger volumes of food at a time, and the hopper is way bigger than like a Foley mill. If you don't know what a Foley mill is, look that up too, because a lot of people have them. I do have one. It's old. It's made out of that old kind of it's not a mint green and it's not a dark green. It's that old 30s and 40s green paint, a lot of the kitchen utensils and appliances had. It's something that I use once in a while, and it's a little bigger than most I've seen. I've used it before for ricing potatoes or things like that, but I don't want to do, 7 bushels of tomato through a hand mill that I've got to stand and hold the handle of. So I kind of settled for in between. I don't have the Foley for it. I don't have the big commercial stainless steel. I've got the one right in the middle that's worked for me for years and years. And it's such a time saver. I really think that I wanted to bring that up because I use it in a few of my videos, and I will be using it a lot when the tomato season comes around. So I wanted to let you know about it ahead of time, because if you process a lot of tomatoes and don't know about these, check them out on Amazon. I'm not affiliated or sponsored by any of them. As a matter of fact, I'm not sponsored by anybody in any area of canning. I'm not lids, jars, no utensils, no appliances, nothing like that. None of the canners. I just like to fill you in on what I've used for so long and what I really think about them, because they are time savers. And when you're canning, especially in the summer when it's hot, or even into fall when it's still really hot out, any time saver that you have, and if you're doing a lot of different kinds of produce, you can have one thing going here and one thing going there and trying to do a whole full day of canning. That's something that I kind of like to let you know what I've used that I found really helpful in all the canning that I've done. And then now with Amazon being so popular and easy to get your hands on anything you want, you can check it out and do a search. So those are pretty cool things. And that's on the food mills that I wanted to talk about. And I also wanted to talk about Tattler lids, or some people say Tattler, Tattler, Tattler lids. I've looked at those for a couple of years now, and I don't see very many people using them. But with the pandemic, when everybody was searching for lids, I mean, I even had to buy boxes with lids and rings, and I never buy the box of 12 lids and rings. It's more money, and I don't need the rings. I throw away my rings when they're rusty, because you can only do a canner full at a time of any one thing. And so the most I might need 3 dozen rings, and I have a plastic box with 3 different levels to sort them out and sizes by, but I have more rings than I ever would need. And so I don't want to buy those. I don't want to spend the extra money to buy something I don't need. But back at that point, you were lucky to find those. I like to buy my lids at the Amish store that I go to in Centerville, which I need to make a trip to. Now, that's something too I wanted to ask. Would you be interested in going with me to the Amish store and seeing what they carry in there and all the different things? If you've never been in one, I love that place. It's like the Toys R Us for me because they have just everything there, all kinds of baking supplies. Of course, a million different kinds of popcorn, cheese, canned goods, canning supplies, knives, you name it, any kind of utensil you can think of, dishes, aprons, hankies. They have so much stuff I could look around in there forever. Bulk spices, bulk cookie decorating, toppings, you name it, they have it. And the flours, they have pastry flour, and they have large sizes. That's also where I get my clear gel, as I mentioned in that video, of making the cherry pie and the blueberry pie. I use the clear gel from there, comes in a big bag. And my sister and I go over there at least a couple times a year, and we, if not more, and we can stay in there forever. Plus, they have fresh produce as it comes in season. They'll put some out front. You can buy squash or tomatoes or whatever. So if you'd be interested in looking at a haul from the Amish store, I could take you with me in there and kind of take a look around. I'll ask for permission. Of course, I wouldn't film anybody, but I would take you in there and give you a look around at what they have and then show you what I get and what I'm going to use it for. It's a fun place to go to, and they have just about anything you could need. And big sleeves of canning lids, either wide or regular mouth canning lids come in a big sleeve there. And that is something I like to buy there too, because the price of that is better. And I know the canning lids are good. I was told before, well, I wasn't told, but I've watched on other videos from other canners not to necessarily go right to the internet to buy your canning lids. Some people did during that time when canning lids were hard to come by, and they were not happy. They didn't feel that they had enough sealing compound on them. Some of them said they had a lot of false seals or fails that didn't seal. So I looked at canning lids, even though I knew this. I got on Amazon today looking for my stuff that I wanted, and I did order a couple of things. But I looked at them just to get an idea of what their prices are and see if they had any good brand names. And that's where I looked at the Tatler lids. And those are, in case you don't know or haven't seen them, they're reusable because they're not metal. They're kind of a cross between using the rubber seals and the bales and the glass lids like they used to, in back when Grandma did it, to the metal lids that we use now. It's kind of a cross between, because it has a white plastic heavy top that sits on a seal that sits on your jar rim. And then you put a ring on it and you process it. And then when you take the ring off, it's supposed to be sealed. And apparently they work because a lot of people do use them. I just don't see them as much as I would have thought I would, because to me, that's a savings. With the price of canning lids right now, they're ridiculous. I think they're expensive, far more expensive than they used to be. And I thought, what if I invested, once a week, I bought one box of Tatler lids, or once every 2 weeks bought some, and then started to build up my supply where I wouldn't have to buy canning lids anymore, because you always want to use a fresh, brand new canning lid. Don't reuse your lids. And I'm just saying this because for the sake of safety, I never reuse my lids, and they don't want you to, according to the National Center for Home Food Preservation. Don't reuse your lids. With that being said, I know everybody has their way of doing things, and I'm not here to discourage anybody or, shame on you if you're doing this, because if you're a canner that's done this and that's how you do things, then that's how you do things. I'm just, I'd rather tell people do as the canning guidelines say to do, because it's food safety. It's really important. It's not, you're not just cooking food, you're preserving it. You want it to last, possibly, you know, 1, 2, 3 years, maybe longer. And so you want to make sure that the way you're doing it is sanitary and according to the guidelines and safe. So I always say use new lids. Don't reuse your lids. But I do save used lids, because if I can a batch of jam, say, and I only have a half of a half pint jar, a quarter pint, and I don't have any quarter pint jars available, then I'll put it in my fridge and I'll use an old lid and a ring to put it in my fridge. If I don't use, now, a few years ago, they did have white plastic lids. They were made by Ball, and you could screw them on top of your jar. So I would use those. But after I moved, I've yet to locate all of them. So if I don't have one and I need to put a jar in the fridge, I'll use a used lid with a ring. That's fine, but not for canning and preserving it to put on a shelf, because it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be safe to do. So anyway, I wanted to ask if anybody has used Tatler lids, or if you've seen them and what you think about them. I was thinking about getting a box just to try them out on something that, like I canned strawberry lemonade, and I plan on canning blueberry lemonade. Well, the strawberry lemonade didn't last 2 weeks. I mean, it was gone. Everybody loved it. It was just gone. So something like that, I could use a Tatler lid on, and keep in the fridge, because I make a small batch. So if I made a small batch of blueberry lemonade, I could put the Tatler lids on them, keep them in the fridge in case they fail, in case I do something wrong, because I'm sure it wouldn't be because of the lid, it'd be operator error. But I would be interested in getting a box and just trying them and see how well they work, because it intrigues me to think I could replace lids a little bit at a time and come up on lids that I never have to buy again. As long as they work really well, I think that'd be great. So that was one thing that I wanted to bring up. Also, I'm looking into dehydrators. Now, I had a dehydrator years ago. It was not, it was a very, very, very cheap and small one. And I never seemed to be able to get the food totally dry. And I know sometimes food does not get totally dry, like some fruits, they stay chewy or whatever. But like if you dry strawberries and you want to dehydrate them, you kind of, the way I would want to do it is to keep them, get them so dry that I could keep them in like a Ziploc bag, or use a food saver to vacuum seal them, so that you could put them up and use them a little bit at a time. But this one, the food would mold if you tried putting it up in anything for any period of time, because it just never dried things out very well. I don't even think it could have made jerky if I wanted to. Um, so I've been looking around at some dehydrated food recipes, and I really like the idea of taking potatoes and thinly slicing them. I have a mandolin from uh, Pampered Chef that would slice them super thin. And I was really intrigued also by that you could take potato slices, dehydrate them, get them all nice and dry and hard, and then bag those up. And then also make your own cream sauce, kind of like Betty Crocker or Idaho, and those brands of potatoes that you can make. They have scallop, they have au gratin, they have julienne and cheese, they have all kinds of them. And I thought, wouldn't it be kind of cool to be able to just make your own? Because you know how much cheaper that'd be. I just bought a box, and it was a double box, which isn't big because each bag in the double box makes like a 9 by 9 only size, and it's not very thick. It's like a little layer of potatoes in a 9 by 9 or an 8 by 8 pan. And for two of those and the powdered sauce mix, it was $3.79, because the price of groceries has popped up there so high that everything is. My jaw literally drops. I walked through there and a lady laughed at me because I looked at the price of something. I can't think of what it is now, but I went, oh my God. I could not believe the price of it. And I know everybody's saying this and everybody's aware of this, but I can't help it. Every time I go in that store, it's just like shock all over again, because things that I used to throw in my cart and not even think twice of that we liked, I don't buy it anymore because it isn't worth the money that it's gotten to. Some things are still worth the money to me, and some things are like, no, you would never convince me back when I bought these at 89 cents that I would ever throw them in my cart for $2.79. I'm not going to do it. And so something like that we don't eat all the time, but would be kind of cool to have on hand. You can make them anytime you want to. You run out, you dehydrate some more potatoes. So I thought that was something I'd be interested in. And also saving freezer space by dehydrating, because I only have so much freezer space. I don't have a deep freeze. I have a fridge in my garage with a top freezer. And then I have a French door fridge in my kitchen that has the bottom pull-out drawer freezer. Neither one of those, even the pull-out drawer freezer, isn't that big. Do you have a dehydrator, Jeannie? I think that'd be really cool. Have you ever made potatoes with those? Because if you made your own potatoes, and I know there's recipes out there for the sauce mix, the dry mix, you could make those things up and then throw the cheese in and make, au gratin potatoes when you were ready to make them. Yeah. Yeah. So I thought that would be kind of a neat idea. And by the way, hello, glad you're here. So, the other thing I wanted to talk about too was, where did I put that? I was writing stuff down, trying to remember everything I wanted to say. Oh, getting food for free. Being able to can food other than the cost of your time and the lids and the electricity for you to can. Would you can if you could have free food? My sister and I have done this many times. My cousin, he's done it with us, and he still does it. Matter of fact, he's the main contact person for our family. He knows how to do this, but we've all gone and done this ourselves before. We've all gone and asked. And that's where you ask a farmer if you can glean the field after they're done picking. And there's a very, very nice farmer down where I grew up that one year he was growing tomatoes for Red Gold Tomato Company. And once he started his field, once he went in and picked his tomatoes, we asked, when you're finished with that, could we go in and pick, the leftovers or glean the field with what you have left in there? And he's like, sure. He let us do it. There were some Amish there. A group of Amish community came and also did it. But all you have to do is ask, and the worst they can say is no. And we ended up with, I don't even know how many jars of, and these are Red Gold tomatoes quality. We ended up with jars and jars and jars of spaghetti sauce. We made ketchup. We had just sauce. We had jarred up tomatoes. We did all kinds of things with them. And that just is a matter of you take your your 5-gallon buckets with you. You go to the field, and it's literally field to jar, like a lot of these companies that you buy, commercial companies will say, which that maybe they do, but we were doing field to jar. We took them home after we dug through the mud, because when they go through there and they pick their tomatoes, it will turn over the soil onto the plants, and you just dig into the mud, and there are whole tomatoes in there that don't get picked by the picker. And they're not crushed. I mean, a few of them are crushed, but we just don't take those. The majority of what you get out of the field is the same tomato that was just a few minutes ago hanging off the plant. So we would dig through the mud and get these tomatoes because they're free. Then we took them to my sister's house, dumped them in a kiddie pool, and then we washed them with the water there, and then we hosed them all off, and then we took them in the house and cleaned them. And then we quartered them up and put them in a pot and just cooked them up enough to be able to put them through the strainer, and made all kinds of stuff. And so other than our time and the lids, the food was free. We that same year, we got potatoes from a farmer that was growing down in that area for Lay's. And when they got done picking their potatoes, you could go out there into the field, and he's left it open. Anybody, first come, first serve, go out there in the field and pick your potatoes. And we would take our 5-gallon buckets out there. We picked potatoes, took them back, peeled them, cleaned them up. We canned diced tomatoes. We canned sliced tomatoes. We canned half potatoes. We had tons of potatoes canned, and they were all free. And it was nothing like going down into my cellar and I'd bring up a can of diced potatoes, a jar of tomato juice, and then I'd bring up, green beans that I had canned, corn, whatever other vegetables I had down there, carrots, and I'd throw them in and make a soup that fast out of everything that I canned that had no preservatives. Everything that was in it, I put in there, so I knew what it was. And then another year, we went to a field in the same area where I grew up, and they were growing carrots for Campbell's. So we asked if we could have permission to glean that field, and they said, yep. So we went out there and we picked carrots, bucket after bucket of carrots, took them home, cleaned them up, sliced them up, made them into strips, and then canned all those. So we had canned carrots, free. Cucumbers for pickles. We've done that before. So if you think about it, and you know someone or you see a field and it's something that you want to use or you want to can, ask the farmer if he would contact you, or if you could contact him back, is what we do toward the end of the picking season. And then, when they're harvesting, and ask if you can glean, and you can go right in the field and pick the food right out of the ground, rinse it off, jar it up yourself, and you've got it for free. So that's a pretty cool idea, especially now with the price of groceries. You might as well. Like they said, the worst thing they can say is no. So that's an idea I wanted to throw out there, because there's a lot of times, a lot of fields, once they're done, they don't go out there and try to pull that stuff out. It lays in the ground and wastes away and rots. And they'd rather see people, most of these farmers would rather see people eat and be able to use the food than have it go to waste. And they're very generous at that point to do that. They don't charge you anything, or none of the ones we've ever run into yet have charged us to go out and get the food. They just let you go out and get it. You just put in the work and it's yours. So that's an idea you might want to think about. I guess I'm not going to talk a whole lot about the upcoming fruit. This is kind of midsummer canning. I have blackberries. Jeannie, I picked up, I think, 6 pints of blackberries. I'm going to make a small batch of blackberry jam. I just made blueberry syrup for pancakes. The grandkids love those blueberry pancakes. And I thought, I bet you Antonio and Mario would love blueberry syrup. Maybe even Leonardo might try it. but it's really super easy. And I ran those through the food mill too, because all you want's the juice. You don't need the blueberry skins in there. So that was an easy thing to make. Yeah, it was really easy and quick. And I made just pint jars. You could put it in jelly jar sizes, but who in the heck eats pancakes with a family and only needs 8 ounces of pancake syrup? Not us. So you could make raspberry pancake syrup. You could make cherry or strawberry. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can use, but I'm making the blueberry because now that it's blueberry season, there's a lot of stuff I want to be able to do with them, and that's one of them. And it turned out really tasty. It was really good, really fast, really easy. And so after I get done with this, I'm going to make the blackberry jelly, run it through the food mill and get rid of those giant seeds. And I can't wait for raspberry because I think raspberry pancake syrup would be kind of tasty too if it was sweet enough. I like raspberries, but I hardly ever eat them because I can't eat those seeds. I can't stand to have seeds in my food other than strawberry seeds, and I don't even really like those, but I can handle those. So when it comes time for raspberries and things, I'm going to run that through the strainer too. Why not? You can make jam or jelly or whatever you want to with it. So, but oh, I went over by 6 minutes. Oh well, there's no set rule on how long you can talk. It's kind of up to you, but I'm glad you showed up and could talk with me, Jeannie. I knew I could count on you. The Jeannie's the other grandma to my grandsons, so she's Nana and I'm Mimi, and we talk quite a bit and have quite a bit in common. They're three little people that we love so much, and I enjoyed canning with Leonardo the other day. I think that's something I don't know if they do that anymore, really. I mean, is 4-H still, canning and sewing and doing those things? Is that still a thing? Because used to be everybody in 4-H had a project and a lot of people would show their jellies. And I put a wedding cake in there when I was 19 at the St. Joe County Fair. I had a 4-tier wedding cake with 4 cakes around it on a stand. And I must say, I won the blue ribbon. And then all the blue ribbons go in to the state fair, and I won a state fair gold ribbon. So that used to be exciting stuff when you were a kid, and making or sewing something, sewing projects or crocheting and knitting and canning. Making those perfect little jars that you can that look so beautiful. I don't know if that's a thing anymore or not, but maybe people don't do that, and maybe they're not learning to can, because I noticed not a lot of younger people are into canning or doing that kind of thing, which is a shame because it saves money. And right now, who couldn't do that, and it's fun. And myself, it's like a hobby to me. If I can anything, it's not work. It's like a hobby. I enjoy doing it. You did 4-H too? Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe they don't do that with kids anymore. Do you know? Oh yeah, it is. It's outrageous. The cost of food it's getting to be like my husband and I came home with $250 worth of food that we carefully shopped the other day at our main grocery store here in town. And we looked at each other and I'm like, did you get ice cream? No. Did you get Pringles for the kids? No. Did we get Little Debbie's for, no. I said, we didn't buy anything but what we need, which amounted to a lot of stuff, and then ground beef and chicken breast. And it was only because it was on sale cheap enough. But, that's why it's good to have stuff in the pantry and have canned meat in the pantry. You can can right now, if they run any good sales, you can can up your chicken and beef for stew or soups or whatever you want to use it for. And also pork, using up pork, make barbecued pork sandwiches. I mean, if you get desperate, you can make your own buns and bread. There's so many things that you can do that is cheaper when you make it. And the thing about that is it's not just because it's cheaper, it's better. Everything you make yourself, you're in control of what goes in it, how much salt, maybe no salt, maybe no sugar, maybe a sugar substitute. And the chemicals that they put in food to make them shelf stable for the grocery store, you don't put that in your stuff. I mean, the most I put in the things I can is salt. And so you would think more people would want to preserve and set up the food while it's in season. That's when it's the cheapest and most abundant. When you can go pick your own blueberries for a heck of a lot cheaper than you can buy them in a grocery store. I crack up every time I see, a pint of strawberries or a pint of blueberries or raspberries, not strawberries, and see the price on those and think, when you pick your own, boy, do you save a whole lot of money. And then you put it up yourself and you save the money you don't spend on the jam with just a little investment of sugar and pectin if you use it. There's just all kinds of ways you can save yourself money. And it's enjoyable to me. I don't find it to be a struggle or work. Of course, I don't have a house full of kids where I've got 6 kids and I'm canning every day, all summer long, because I've got to feed a lot of people. But I can plenty enough for us and a few things for my kids to take if it's something that they like. And then everybody can save a little bit. So I was just curious anyway, getting back to the 4-H. I don't know if they do that. I haven't talked to anybody that has kids in 4-H. I bet they probably still do. But I always liked going through the barns I call it the Centerville Fair, but it's the St. Joe County Fair, and it's my favorite fair right down there where I live or lived when I grew up. And I always like going through the barns where the 4-H projects were and looking at how carefully they canned everything, which you don't do in your own kitchen when you're just going to put it on the shelf. But if you're doing it for a 4-H project and you want a ribbon, you tend to do a little bit nicer. You get judged on that stuff. Or making a pie and being judged on how that tastes or whatever it is. It's just kind of cool. But so anyway, we'll talk next time. This is only my second live. I'm not sure I put it out far enough in advance. I'm not sure I did it on the right night. It is Friday night. People are out of work for the week. They're probably going out doing things, going to dinner. I'm going to have to find a day that works for more people to be able to sit down and just chat, because I'd really like to hear what you're canning, what you're preparing, what you're looking forward to. I have questions. What's the thing you've canned you would never can again because it just didn't turn out, or you didn't like the way it was after it was canned? There's questions other people may ask that you might be able to help them out with if you've got a lot of canning experience. So we'll just set up another live on another day and see how it goes. And I may or may not keep doing them, but I'm just starting, so I'm not giving up on it yet. I haven't given up on my channel. It's done pretty well now after being on for 3 months. I have done a lot better than I thought I was going to. So I'm going to look at this the same way. Lives are fun for me. I like to tune into them. So I'm going to wait and see if we can figure out what days, what times, and if people are interested in coming and talking about it. If not, that's okay too. But I'm going to give it a shot, because some people will show up and talk, and we can all help each other out that way. Find out what everybody's doing. It's just interesting. So I'm going to end the live because it's been 45 minutes, 15 minutes over what I intended to, but I had a good time talking to you, Jeannie. I might give you a call after I'm done with this. But if you see this and as a replay, type replay in the comments for me, just so I can tell if after I close this out and put it on my list, if people are watching the live videos after, then maybe it's because they didn't have time to watch it when it was live. But if it's a topic that you're interested in, you're watching it later, I'll know. Otherwise, I can't see when people are in the chat or if they've looked at it. But if you type replay, then that gives me a good idea. And thank you for joining me. Or if you're joining me later, thank you for watching. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.